The phone rang at 2 in the morning, jolting me from sleep. Mom's voice cracked through the speaker, sobbing uncontrollably. "Hilton, we saw the news about your lottery win. We made a terrible mistake. Please forgive us." 20 years of watching my sister Jessica receive everything while I got scraps flashed before my eyes. The mansion they bought her for her wedding, the college tuition they refused me, the birthday parties thrown in her honor while mine were forgotten. I stared at the winning ticket on my nightstand worth $100 million and smiled. Growing up in suburban Phoenix, Arizona, I learned early that love came with conditions in our household. Jessica, my older sister by 18 months, seemed to breathe differently than I did. Every exhale brought her praise. Every inhale drew attention and affection from our parents, like a magnet pulls metal shavings. My earliest memory centers around my 5th birthday party. While Jessica's celebrations featured elaborate themes, hired clowns' pony rides, and guest lists stretching beyond 30 children, mine consisted of store-bought cupcakes from the grocery bakery and 3 neighborhood kids whose mothers felt obligated to attend. Mom explained this disparity by claiming Jessica was more social and needed the attention to develop properly. Even at 5 years old, something twisted in my stomach hearing those words. The pattern continued relentlessly through elementary school. Jessica's room underwent complete makeovers every 2 years, transforming from princess paradise to sophisticated teenager sanctuary with designer furniture-coordinated color schemes and custom artwork. Meanwhile, I slept on the same twin bed with superhero sheets until I moved out at 18, the mattress springs poking through worn fabric by my senior year of high school. Transportation revealed another layer of favoritism. On Jessica's 16th birthday, our parents surprised her with a brand new Honda Civic, complete with custom leather seats and a premium sound system. The car gleamed in our driveway like a monument to parental devotion. When my 16th birthday arrived 6 months later, Dad handed me classified ads circled in red pen and told me the hardware store downtown was hiring for summer positions. I spent 3 months loading lumber mixing paint and organizing inventory bins under the Arizona sun, earning $6.50 per hour. The money bought me a rusted Toyota Corolla with a cracked windshield and an exhaust pipe held together with wire coat hangers. While Jessica drove to school in air-conditioned comfort, I arrived each morning smelling like engine oil and hoping my car wouldn't break down in the parking lot. College applications brought fresh heartbreak. Jessica received automatic acceptance to Arizona State University with full parental financial support, including dormitory fees, meal plans, textbooks, and a generous monthly allowance for social activities. When I approached our parents about college funding, they suggested community college and part-time work to build character and appreciate education more. I enrolled at Phoenix Community College, working nights at a 24-hour diner to pay tuition and rent for a studio apartment near campus. While Jessica pledged sororities and attended spring break trips funded by parental generosity, I served coffee to drunk customers and studied textbooks stained with grease from the kitchen. The discovery that changed everything happened 3 years ago during a Christmas visit. While searching for gift wrap in Mom's bedroom closet, my fingers brushed against a leather-bound journal wedged between storage boxes. Curiosity overcame respect for privacy, and I opened the cover to find entries dating back to my childhood written in Mom's careful handwriting. The entries revealed calculated decisions behind every act of favoritism. Jessica deserves the best opportunities because she shows more promise academically and socially. Read one passage from my 7th grade year. Another entry written when I was 14 stated, "Hilton is more resilient and can handle disappointment better than Jessica. He doesn't require as much support to succeed." Page after page documented deliberate planning of differential treatment. Mom had researched child psychology articles about birth order and personality development, using this information to justify giving Jessica advantages while denying me basic fairness. The journal contained lists of gifts, purchased events planned, and financial expenditures with detailed explanations for why Jessica merited investment, while I received minimal consideration. Reading those entries felt like discovering I was adopted, except worse. Adoptive parents choose children out of love, while my biological parents had chosen to systematically diminish one child while elevating another based on perceived potential and convenience. That Christmas evening, I confronted them in the living room where Jessica's framed achievements covered every surface, while my teaching degree hung alone on a distant wall. I held the journal open to specific entries, reading their words aloud with trembling voice. "You documented your favoritism," I said, my hands shaking with rage and heartbreak. "You planned this. Every birthday, every Christmas, every opportunity you gave her and denied me was deliberate." Mom's face flushed crimson while Dad shifted uncomfortably in his recliner. "You're overreacting," Mom said, reaching for the journal. "Those are private thoughts taken out of context. You wrote that I don't deserve investment because I can handle disappointment." I continued, backing away from her grasping hands. "You decided when I was 7 years old that Jessica was worth more than me." Dad finally spoke, his voice carrying the dismissive tone I'd heard throughout childhood. "Son, you're imagining things that aren't there. Your mother and I love you both equally. We've always tried to give each of you what you needed individually." "Equally?" I laughed bitterly. "Show me one entry in this journal where you planned something special for me. Find one page where you wrote about my potential or my dreams or my deserving good things." They couldn't. The journal contained hundreds of entries about Jessica's needs, accomplishments, and future prospects, while mentions of me appeared only in context of how to manage my reactions to Jessica's preferential treatment. "You're being dramatic," Jessica said. From the kitchen doorway, where she'd been listening while preparing her favorite late-night snack that Mom always kept stocked specifically for her visits. "Mom and Dad have been incredibly generous to both of us. You're just jealous because I've made more of my opportunities." Her casual dismissal of documented evidence broke something inside me that had been cracking for years. The confrontation ended with me leaving their house that night, driving home to my small apartment with the journal tucked under my arm and tears blurring my vision. Contact with my family became minimal after that evening. Obligatory phone calls on holidays, brief text messages, acknowledging birthdays, and careful avoidance of any gathering that might require extended interaction. I focused on building my own life, accepting that some wounds never heal and some relationships remain forever damaged by fundamental inequality. The journal now sat in my desk drawer, a reminder of lessons learned too late about expecting fairness from people incapable of providing it. Reading those entries had liberated me from hope that things might change. But the freedom came at the cost of believing family love could ever feel safe or unconditional. 2 years after the journal discovery, Jessica announced her engagement to Bradley Thornton, a successful dental practice owner she'd met through mutual friends at a wine tasting event. The engagement ring featured a 3-carat diamond that caught light like a miniature chandelier, and Jessica's social media posts showcased the proposal story with professional quality photographs taken at sunset on Camelback Mountain. Wedding planning revealed new depths of parental favoritism that exceeded even my adjusted expectations. During Sunday dinner at our childhood home, Mom casually mentioned they'd saved $25,000 specifically for Jessica's wedding money accumulated over several years in anticipation of this moment. "And we want your special day to be perfect," Dad told Jessica while cutting into the prime rib roast Mom had prepared in her honor. "You only get married once, and we believe in starting marriages with beautiful memories." The initial budget expanded rapidly as Jessica's vision grew more elaborate. She wanted a destination wedding in Napa Valley, complete with vineyard ceremonies, wine tastings for guests, and accommodations at luxury resorts. The $25,000 nest egg mysteriously transformed into $80,000 as our parents refinanced their mortgage and liquidated investment accounts to fund Jessica's fairy tale celebration. Meanwhile, I was struggling to complete my graduate program in education, needing $15,000 for my teaching credential courses and student teaching semester. When I approached our parents about educational loans, they claimed financial strain from Jessica's wedding expenses made assistance impossible. "You're already working as a substitute teacher," Mom explained during a brief phone conversation that felt more like a budget meeting than family discussion. "Student loans are available for graduate school, and the investment in your education will pay for itself over time." The suggestion that I borrow money for necessities while they spent six figures on Jessica's party highlighted the fundamental difference in how they viewed our respective worth and potential. Educational debt would follow me for decades, while Jessica's wedding memories would fade, but leave her debt-free and established in life with continued parental support. The most shocking revelation came 3 months before Jessica's wedding date. I was grabbing coffee at a downtown Phoenix cafe before heading to my substitute teaching assignment when Frank Morrison, our family's longtime financial advisor, approached my table. "Hilton, good to see you," Frank said, settling into the chair across from me without invitation. "Your parents are such generous people. Not many folks your age have family willing to mortgage their home to buy them a house as a wedding gift." My coffee cup stopped halfway to my lips. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Frank's expression shifted from casual friendliness to confusion. "Jessica's wedding gift, the house in Scottsdale. I assumed you knew about the mortgage arrangement your parents made." The conversation that followed shattered any remaining illusions about my family's financial priorities. Frank explained that our parents had taken a $400,000 mortgage against their previously paid-off family home to purchase Jessica's wedding present, a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in one of Scottsdale's most desirable neighborhoods. "They're looking at monthly payments around $3,000. Frank continued, apparently unaware he was delivering devastating news. "It's a stretch on their retirement income, but they seem determined to set Jessica and Bradley up for success. They mentioned something about equity building and investment potential." I sat in stunned silence while Frank described the financial details of my parents' sacrifice for Jessica's benefit. They had literally mortgaged their future security, their retirement comfort, and their own housing stability to provide Jessica with immediate home ownership, while simultaneously claiming poverty when I needed basic educational support. The timing made the betrayal especially cruel. While I was eating ramen noodles for dinner 4 nights a week and wearing thrift store clothing to stretch my budget, our parents were secretly arranging hundreds of thousands of dollars in gifts for Jessica. While they suggested student loans for my $15,000 educational needs, they were approved for mortgage debt 26 times larger to fund Jessica's lifestyle. They also mentioned liquidating most of their retirement savings for the wedding expenses. Frank added, checking his watch and preparing to leave. "Your parents are really going all out for this celebration. Jessica's lucky to have such dedicated support." After Frank departed, I remained at the coffee shop for 2 hours, staring at my reflection in the window while processing the magnitude of what I'd learned. Our parents hadn't simply favored Jessica. They had bankrupted their own future to provide her with privileges beyond most people's dreams, while denying me basic assistance with legitimate educational goals. The wedding took place on a perfect October afternoon among rolling hills covered with golden grapevines. Jessica looked radiant in her designer gown. Bradley appeared appropriately grateful for his good fortune, and our parents beamed with pride as they watched their investment in favoritism celebrate its ultimate expression. I attended the ceremony and reception, smiling appropriately during toasts and dancing awkwardly during family photos, while internally calculating the financial devastation our parents had embraced for this single day. The wedding cake cost more than my monthly rent. Jessica's dress exceeded my annual clothing budget. The photographer's fee surpassed my semester tuition. 3 weeks after the wedding, Jessica hosted a housewarming party at the Scottsdale mansion our parents had purchased for her. Walking through rooms larger than my entire apartment, I watched Mom and Dad give tours to relatives and family friends, proudly explaining architectural features and design elements they'd helped select. The master bedroom has a walk-in closet bigger than most bedrooms, Mom told Aunt Patricia, while gesturing toward the luxurious space Jessica would enjoy every day. We wanted to make sure they had room to grow into the house over time. Dad pointed out energy-efficient appliances, granite countertops, and custom cabinetry, with the enthusiasm of someone personally responsible for these improvements. He never mentioned the mortgage payments that would consume the next 30 years of their lives, or the depleted savings accounts that once represented their security. Jessica floated through the party, accepting congratulations and compliments about her beautiful home, while I stood in corners, sipping wine, and marveling at the surreal nature of celebrating our parents' financial suicide as if it represented generosity rather than dysfunction. The evening ended with me driving back to my studio apartment in Tempe, passing homeless encampments under freeway overpasses, and wondering how people prioritize love so unevenly that they would sacrifice their own welfare for one child's luxury while denying another child's basic needs. The house in my rearview mirror represented everything wrong with my family's values, yet everyone except me seemed to consider it beautiful evidence of parental devotion. Following my graduation with a teaching credential, I secured a position at Desert Ridge High School, teaching mathematics to students who reminded me of my younger self, hardworking, overlooked, and determined despite limited resources. My starting salary of $38,000 felt generous compared to my previous substitute income, but barely covered basic living expenses in Phoenix's increasingly expensive housing market. I rented a one-bedroom apartment in Tempe furnished with items from garage sales and thrift stores. My kitchen table was a plastic folding surface from Walmart. My couch came from Goodwill, with suspicious stains I covered with sheets, and my bed frame consisted of a mattress placed directly on the floor. While Jessica documented European vacations on Instagram with photos of Roman fountains and Parisian cafes, I celebrated small victories like finding marked-down groceries and gas prices below $3 per gallon. The contrast between our lifestyles became especially stark during holiday seasons. Jessica's social media showcased designer clothing purchases, spa weekends with friends, and restaurant meals that cost more than my weekly food budget. Meanwhile, I graded papers at my kitchen table under a single lamp, planning lessons for students whose families struggled with poverty, while my own family funded my sister's leisure activities. My Toyota Corolla, now approaching 200,000 miles, began requiring repairs that strained my budget beyond breaking points. The transmission started slipping during my morning commute, jerking between gears, and making grinding noises that suggested expensive problems. A mechanic confirmed my fear's transmission replacement would cost $2,000, nearly half my monthly salary. Swallowing pride that had been slowly dissolving over years of financial struggle, I called our parents to request a loan. Not a gift, not charity, but a temporary loan I would repay with interest once my teaching career provided more stability. I understand you've been supporting Jessica's lifestyle, I said carefully during the phone conversation, attempting diplomatic language to avoid confrontation. But I'm in a genuine crisis situation. My car is essential for getting to work, and I don't have savings to cover this repair. Dad's response carried the familiar tone of dismissal I'd heard throughout my life. Son, we'd like to help, but Jessica's ongoing expenses have stretched our budget to its limits. Have you looked into personal loans or credit cards for this type of emergency? Ongoing expenses? I asked, unable to hide my frustration. What ongoing expenses? You bought her a house. She's married to a dentist. What could she possibly need from you financially? Well, there's the property taxes, homeowners insurance, utility deposits for the new house, Mom interjected from the background. Plus, Jessica mentioned wanting to update some of the landscaping and maybe renovate the kitchen. These are legitimate investments in the property value. The absurdity of their reasoning struck me like physical pain. They couldn't loan me $2,000 to maintain basic transportation for work, but they could fund optional home improvements for a daughter who already owned more than most people accumulate in lifetimes. Property taxes, I repeated slowly. You bought her a house, and now you're paying the taxes on it too. It's complicated, Dad said. Jessica and Bradley are still establishing their financial foundation. We don't expect you to understand all the details. The conversation ended with familiar disappointment and renewed understanding of my place in family priorities. I secured a credit card with 23% interest to finance the transmission repair, beginning a debt cycle that would follow me for years. 2 weeks after my parents refused to help with car repairs, Jessica posted Instagram photos of her kitchen renovation. The images showcased custom granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and hand-painted ceramic tiles that transformed an already beautiful space into something suitable for home design magazines. The renovation costs, judging from similar projects I'd researched while dreaming of owning property myself, likely exceeded $20,000. My resentment toward Jessica began shifting during this period. While I had previously blamed our parents for favoritism, I started recognizing Jessica's role in perpetuating and exploiting the dysfunction. She knew our parents were sacrificing their financial security for her benefit, yet she continued requesting and accepting money for increasingly frivolous purposes. The breaking point in my relationship with extended family occurred at our cousin Rachel's birthday party 6 months later. Rachel, Uncle Mark's daughter, had invited the entire family to celebrate her graduation from nursing school at a restaurant in Central Phoenix. From the moment I arrived, relatives treated me with barely concealed hostility. Conversation stopped when I approached groups. Family members avoided making eye contact during dinner, and Uncle Mark pulled me aside after the meal for what he characterized as a necessary discussion about family responsibilities. Your parents are worried sick about you. Uncle Mark began, his voice carrying judgment and disappointment. They've bent over backwards to support you through school and help you get established, and you've responded with ingratitude and selfishness. I'm sorry, what are you talking about? I asked, genuinely confused by his accusations. The way you've treated them since Jessica's wedding, he continued. Demanding money they don't have, making unreasonable requests for financial support, and then cutting off contact when they couldn't meet your expectations. The conversation revealed that our parents had been systematically rewriting history in their communications with extended family. According to Uncle Mark's understanding, I had demanded they pay for my graduate school, insisted they buy me a car, equivalent to Jessica's, and thrown tantrums when they explained their limited resources. Your sister has been helping support your parents financially, Aunt Susan added, joining our conversation uninvited. Jessica told us she's been covering some of their bills because their retirement income isn't enough. And instead of being grateful that your sister stepped up, you're angry they can't give you money too. This information stunned me into temporary speechlessness. Not only were our parents continuing to fund Jessica's lifestyle improvements, but Jessica was now positioned as their financial savior rather than the beneficiary of their generosity. The narrative had been completely inverted to portray me as the ungrateful child, demanding support, while Jessica shouldered family financial responsibilities. I never demanded anything, I said quietly, recognizing the futility of defending myself against years of carefully constructed lies. I asked for a loan to repair my car so I could continue working. They said no, and I accepted their decision. That's not what they told us, Uncle Mark replied. They said you've been pressuring them for money, constantly making them feel guilty about helping Jessica with her legitimate needs. The remainder of the party passed in surreal discomfort as I observed family members who had known me since childhood treating me like a stranger, based on distorted information from our parents. I left the restaurant that evening, understanding that my reputation within the extended family had been systematically destroyed to protect the narrative of Jessica's specialness and our parents' wisdom. Driving home to my modest apartment, I realized the full scope of what our parents had accomplished through decades of careful manipulation. They had not only created a family structure where Jessica received every advantage while I struggled alone, but they had convinced everyone around us that this arrangement represented appropriate parenting rather than systematic favoritism. The most painful aspect of this revelation wasn't the financial inequality or even the family alienation, but the recognition that our parents were capable of sophisticated deception in service of maintaining their preferred narrative. They had lied to relatives, twisted facts, and portrayed victim as villain to avoid acknowledging the dysfunction they had created. That night, I made peace with permanent estrangement from family members who seemed determined to believe comfortable lies rather than uncomfortable truths. I focused my energy on building relationships with people who valued fairness and honesty, accepting that biological connection doesn't guarantee emotional safety or mutual respect. My teaching career became my anchor during this period of family chaos. Working with students who faced genuine hardships helped me maintain perspective about my own challenges, while their resilience and determination inspired me to continue building my independent life despite family dysfunction and financial struggles. By age 32, I had constructed a modest but stable existence built on realistic expectations and careful financial planning. My teaching salary had increased to $45,000 after 4 years of service, allowing me to move from the cramped studio apartment to a one-bedroom unit in a safer neighborhood near the school district. My transportation situation improved when the Toyota finally died beyond repair, prompting me to purchase a reliable used Honda Civic with 90,000 miles and a clean maintenance record. The monthly payment strained my budget, but having dependable transportation eliminated the constant anxiety about breaking down during my commute to work. Therapy sessions with Dr. Stephanie Chen helped me process the family dysfunction and develop healthier perspectives about relationships and self-worth. Through weekly conversations in her comfortable office, I learned to recognize manipulation tactics, establish boundaries, and separate my identity from my family's distorted value system. Your parents created a scapegoat and golden child dynamic, Dr. Chen explained during one particularly insightful session. This isn't about your inherent worth or Jessica's superiority. It's about their psychological needs and limitations as parents. Understanding the clinical framework behind my family's behavior provided emotional distance from the pain while validating my experiences as legitimate rather than imagined. I wasn't being overly sensitive or misinterpreting normal family dynamics. I was responding appropriately to abnormal treatment that would damage anyone subjected to it consistently. Friday afternoon trips to Garcia's Corner Market became a weekly ritual that combined practical errands with a small indulgence. After cashing my paycheck and purchasing groceries for the week, I bought lottery tickets for the Saturday evening Powerball drawing. The $5 investment represented my only gambling habit and a harmless way to dream about financial freedom. My number selection followed a pattern established 3 years earlier in what I privately called ironic commemoration. I played Jessica's birthday, March 15th, converted to the numbers 315, and combined them with her wedding anniversary, June 22nd, to create 622. The additional numbers came from our parents' anniversary and the year of my high school graduation. Choosing these dates wasn't motivated by love or nostalgia, but by bitter humor about the cosmic unfairness of my situation. Every week, I paid $5 to memorialize the events that symbolized my exclusion from family priority and affection. The lottery ticket became a private joke about playing numbers, representing everything I would never have celebrated: milestones, family investment, and unconditional support. Maybe Jessica's special dates will finally do something good for me. I told my reflection in the bathroom mirror each Friday evening while reviewing the week's numbers. The routine had become meditation on acceptance and moving forward, despite disappointment. Friday, October 12th, began like every other school day with early morning lesson planning and coffee, strong enough to motivate teenagers toward mathematical understanding. My Algebra 2 classes struggled with quadratic equations, while my AP Calculus students prepared for upcoming examinations that would determine college credit and placement. After school, I graded assignments in my classroom while the building emptied of students and faculty, then drove to Garcia's Corner Market for my weekly ritual. Mrs. Garcia, the elderly owner who knew every regular customer by name, smiled as I approached the lottery counter. Muy, same numbers as always, Professor, she asked, using the nickname she'd given me, despite my corrections about being a high school teacher rather than university professor. Same numbers, Mrs. Garcia. Maybe this week the universe will have a sense of humor. I purchased groceries for the weekend, filled my gas tank, and returned to my apartment for a quiet Friday evening of meal preparation and Netflix documentaries about historical events that helped me maintain perspective about contemporary problems. Saturday evening, after a productive day of laundry, apartment cleaning, and lesson planning for the following week, I opened my laptop to check the Powerball results. The routine had become so automatic I barely paid attention while navigating to the lottery website and clicking on the latest drawing information. The numbers appeared on my screen in bold font 3, 6, 15, 22, 31, and Powerball number 7. I stared at the sequence for several seconds before retrieving my ticket from the kitchen counter where I'd left it after Friday's purchase. Comparing my ticket to the screen results, I experienced the strange sensation of recognizing familiar numbers while struggling to comprehend their significance. 315 from Jessica's birthday, 622 from her anniversary. The additional numbers matched perfectly with my selection based on family dates I'd chosen in bitter irony. My hands began trembling as I checked and rechecked the numbers, convinced I was misreading something fundamental. After 15 minutes of verification, I accepted the impossible reality. I had won the Powerball jackpot using Jessica's significant dates as my number selection. The jackpot amount displayed prominently below the winning numbers showed $160 million before taxes. After federal and state tax obligations, the cash payout would exceed $100 million, transforming me from a struggling teacher managing monthly bills into someone with wealth beyond most people's imagination. I sat on my secondhand couch in my modest apartment, holding a $5 piece of paper that represented complete financial freedom, and laughed until tears streamed down my face. The cosmic irony was too perfect to be coincidental. Jessica's birthday and anniversary, the dates that symbolized my exclusion and her privilege, had become the mechanism of my liberation from financial struggle. For the first time in my adult life, I possessed something Jessica couldn't access or claim as partially hers. The money was mine alone, earned through chance, but validated by years of patient endurance and independent survival despite family dysfunction. That night, I made a decision to temporarily keep the win private. I wanted to observe my family's authentic behavior before revealing my changed circumstances, curious about whether knowledge of my wealth would alter their treatment or expose additional layers of manipulation and self-interest. The ticket remained on my nightstand next to the alarm clock, a tangible reminder that sometimes the universe does possess a sense of humor and justice, even when delivered through the unlikely mechanism of numbers representing past pain transformed into future possibility. My intention to maintain privacy about the lottery win evaporated when I received a phone call Tuesday morning from Channel 12 news reporter Amanda Foster. Arizona state lottery regulations required public identification of winners, claiming prizes exceeding $50 million, making anonymity impossible, despite my preference for discretion. Mr. Hilton, congratulations on your incredible lottery win, Amanda said with the enthusiastic professionalism of someone accustomed to delivering exciting news. We'd love to schedule an interview for our evening broadcast. Viewers are always interested in hearing how winners plan to use their good fortune. I wasn't aware the information was already public, I replied, still processing the reality that my private windfall had become community knowledge. "Way, the Lottery Commission released the winner information this morning," Amanda explained. "Your story is particularly compelling because you're a local teacher who will continue working despite your financial windfall. That kind of dedication resonates with our audience." The interview took place Thursday afternoon at Desert Ridge High School, where Amanda and her camera crew captured footage of me teaching calculus to students who remained unaware their instructor had recently become one of Arizona's wealthiest residents. We discussed my plans to continue teaching, my gratitude for the unexpected blessing, and my intention to use the money responsibly rather than purchasing extravagant luxuries. "Will you be sharing your good fortune with family members?" Amanda asked during the final portion of our conversation. "Family relationships are complicated," I answered carefully, unwilling to discuss personal details on television. "I'll be thoughtful about how this money affects the people closest to me." The segment aired Tuesday evening during the 6 o'clock news, featuring my photograph alongside the headline, "Local Teacher Wins $100 million Jackpot." Within hours, my phone began receiving calls and text messages from numbers I didn't recognize, people claiming various connections to me and my family. High school classmates I hadn't spoken to in 15 years sent Facebook messages reminiscing about our close friendship and mentioning current financial struggles that prevented them from attending their children's activities or pursuing educational opportunities. Former colleagues from my substitute teaching days called with investment opportunities that promised excellent returns for someone with my newfound resources. Distant relatives emerged from obscurity to congratulate me while sharing details about medical expenses, home repairs, and educational costs their families faced. Neighbors from previous apartments sent letters expressing their happiness for my success while mentioning their own economic challenges and dreams deferred due to limited resources. The most disturbing contacts came from complete strangers who had researched my personal information and developed elaborate stories about why they deserved portions of my winnings. A woman claiming to be my elementary school teacher's daughter explained her mother's medical debt and my moral obligation to honor the educator who had shaped my character. A man insisting we had met at a community event requested funding for his nonprofit organization, serving veterans with disabilities. By Wednesday evening, I had turned off my cell phone, unplugged my landline, and avoided checking email or social media accounts. The lottery win, which I had anticipated bringing freedom and peace, instead created chaos and exposed the extent to which desperate people would exploit any connection to wealth. Thursday morning brought an unexpected visitor that changed my understanding of how quickly my family would respond to news of my good fortune. I was preparing for work when someone knocked loudly on my apartment door using the rapid, insistent rhythm that suggested urgency or anger. Through the peephole, I saw Jessica standing in the hallway carrying a large tote bag and appearing more animated than I'd seen her since her wedding day. She was using the spare key our parents had kept for emergencies, which they had apparently shared with her without my knowledge or permission. "Hilton, open up. We need to talk about this lottery situation," Jessica called through the door while simultaneously unlocking it with the key. She entered my apartment without invitation, immediately spreading architectural magazines across my kitchen table and opening her laptop to display luxury real estate websites. Her energy suggested she had been planning this conversation since learning about my win, approaching the money as a family asset rather than my personal windfall. "I've been researching properties in Paradise Valley," Jessica began, without acknowledging my obvious discomfort with her uninvited presence. "We could buy adjoining mansions with guest houses and pools. The kids would love having Uncle Hilton next door, and Bradley thinks the area has excellent investment potential." "Jessica, slow down," I said, attempting to establish some control over the conversation. "I haven't decided anything about my plans for this money." "Well, obviously we need to think strategically about major purchases." She continued scrolling through photographs of multi-million-dollar estates. "But I've also been looking at vacation properties. This place in Aspen would be perfect for family ski trips and this Maui condo has incredible ocean views. She showed me listings featuring properties worth millions of dollars, calculating family vacation schedules, and discussing renovation possibilities as if my lottery win was a shared inheritance rather than my individual stroke of luck. Her assumption of automatic access to the money revealed the same entitlement that had characterized her entire relationship with family resources. I've also been thinking about Mom and Dad's situation, Jessica added, pulling financial documents from her tote bag. They deserve to retire early and enjoy their golden years without money stress. We could pay off their mortgage completely and set up monthly allowances so they never have to worry about expenses again. I asked, emphasizing the pronoun that seemed most problematic in her presentation. Family takes care of family. Jessica replied, using the phrase our parents had employed throughout our childhood to justify their favoritism toward her. This money is a blessing for all of us, not just you individually. Her laptop screen displayed spreadsheets calculating private school tuition for her children's expansion costs, for Bradley's dental practice, and investment opportunities that would multiply the lottery winnings over time. She had clearly spent considerable time planning how to spend money that belonged entirely to me, approaching the windfall as naturally available for her family's benefit. I haven't agreed to any of this, I said quietly, recognizing the familiar pattern of Jessica assuming authority over resources and decisions that affected her interests. Hilton, don't be selfish about this, Jessica responded, with the irritation of someone accustomed to getting her way through emotional manipulation. You've always been jealous of my success, but now you have more money than any of us could spend in a lifetime. The least you can do is share it with the people who love you. Her accusation of selfishness for hesitating to immediately fund her lifestyle fantasies crystallized everything wrong with my family's approach to relationships and responsibility. Jessica had received decades of parental investment and support, owned a house purchased with our parents' mortgage, and enjoyed financial advantages I had never experienced. Yet she characterized my reluctance to automatically share my lottery win as character deficiency. I need time to think about this, I said, moving toward my apartment door in an obvious signal that our conversation should end. Time to think about what? Jessica asked, gathering her materials with visible frustration. This is about family loyalty, Hilton. When people win the lottery, they take care of the people who matter most. I shouldn't have to convince you to do the right thing. After Jessica left, I sat in my disrupted apartment, contemplating the speed with which my family had mobilized to claim portions of my winnings while characterizing any hesitation as moral failure. The lottery ticket that had represented freedom and independence was already becoming a source of conflict and manipulation, just as every other family resource had been throughout my life. That evening, I decided to maintain minimal contact with family members until I could develop a comprehensive plan for handling both the money and the relationships that money would inevitably complicate. The lottery win was either going to liberate me from family dysfunction or provide new mechanisms for that dysfunction to evolve and persist. Thursday night, exactly 1 week after the lottery numbers had changed my life forever, I was awakened by my phone ringing at 2 a.m. The caller identification showed my parents' home number, which immediately triggered anxiety because late-night calls usually meant medical emergencies or family crises. Mom's voice cracked through the speaker before I could finish saying hello, her sobs making words difficult to understand. Hilton, honey, we need to talk to you about something very important. We're in terrible trouble. Dad's voice joined the conversation from their kitchen extension, his tone carrying defeat and desperation I'd never heard from him before. Son, we've made some serious financial mistakes, and we don't know where else to turn for help. Through 20 minutes of tearful confession, the complete scope of my parents' financial devastation emerged. The mortgage they'd taken against their home to buy Jessica's house had payments of $3,200 monthly, consuming nearly 70% of their combined retirement income. They had been borrowing money from credit cards to cover basic living expenses, accumulating debt that now exceeded $40,000. Why? We thought Bradley would help with the mortgage payments once he and Jessica were established, Mom explained between sobs. But his dental practice isn't generating the income we expected, and Jessica says they need every dollar for their own family expenses. The most shocking revelation was that Jessica had been aware of their financial crisis for 18 months and had been providing sporadic assistance that barely prevented foreclosure. Our parents were facing bankruptcy proceedings within 60 days unless they could generate enough money to catch up on missed payments and reduce their overwhelming debt load. Oh, we never meant for things to get this bad. Dad continued, his voice breaking with emotion I'd rarely witnessed. We just wanted to give Jessica the best start possible in her marriage. We thought everything would work out somehow. Well, we know we've made terrible mistakes in how we treated you. Mom added her words, punctuated by fresh sobs. We took you for granted and assumed you'd always be okay because you're so strong and independent. We should have supported you more and been fairer about family resources. Their apologies felt genuine but also strategic, timed precisely to coincide with their need for financial rescue and my newfound ability to provide it. The lottery win had transformed me from the overlooked child to their potential savior, prompting acknowledgement of favoritism that had been invisible to them when they possessed control over family finances. We're begging you to forgive us and help us keep our home, Dad pleaded. We know we don't deserve your generosity after how we've treated you, but we're desperate, and you're our only hope. As our parents detailed their financial crisis, Jessica's car pulled into my apartment complex parking lot. I could see her through my bedroom window walking toward my building with determined strides and carrying what appeared to be financial documents in a manila folder. Mom, Dad, Jessica just arrived, I said. Let me call you back after I see what she wants. Oh, good, Mom said with obvious relief. Jessica said she was going to talk to you tonight. We've been working together to figure out how to ask for your help with this situation. Jessica knocked on my door with the same insistent rhythm she'd used earlier that week, but her demeanor was noticeably different when I answered. Instead of the enthusiastic energy she'd displayed while planning to spend my lottery money, she appeared frustrated and somewhat desperate. We need to talk about Mom and Dad's financial problems, she said, entering my apartment without invitation and spreading documents across my kitchen table. They're about to lose their house because of the mortgage they took to buy mine. I just got off the phone with them, I replied. They explained the situation. Then you understand why family needs to stick together right now. Jessica continued, her voice carrying the authoritative tone she used when expecting immediate compliance with her requests. I've been helping them for over a year, paying their utilities and covering grocery expenses, but I can't afford to take on their mortgage payments too. The documents she'd brought included mortgage statements, utility bills, and credit card summaries, detailing the extent of our parents' financial chaos. She had clearly been managing their crisis for months, while simultaneously planning to spend my lottery winnings on vacation properties and luxury purchases. Why didn't you mention their problems when you were here Tuesday planning how to spend my money? I asked, recognizing another layer of manipulation in her approach. I was trying to think positively about our family's future, Jessica replied defensively. But Mom and Dad's situation is urgent and we can't ignore it any longer. I repeated, noting her consistent use of plural pronouns when discussing my individual responsibilities. Hilton, don't start with semantics. Jessica snapped her patience, apparently exhausted by my failure to immediately agree to her financial plans. You won $100 million. Mom and Dad need maybe $200,000 to solve their problems completely. That's pocket change for you now. Her casual dismissal of $200,000 as insignificant revealed how quickly she had adjusted her expectations about money, and my obligations to fund family needs. The same woman who had never offered to help with my car repairs now expected me to casually distribute hundreds of thousands of dollars to resolve problems created by decades of favoritism toward her. "And what about your house?" I asked. "The house they mortgaged their retirement to buy for you? Are you planning to sell it and use the proceeds to pay back their loan?" Jessica's expression shifted to defensive anger. "That house is Bradley's and my family home. We can't just sell our children's stability to fix a temporary financial problem." "Temporary?" I laughed bitterly. "They borrowed $400,000 against their retirement security to buy you that house. How is that temporary?" "They made that choice voluntarily," Jessica replied. "No one forced them to help us with homeownership. And Bradley has been working extra hours to build his practice income so we can eventually help with their expenses." Our three-way confrontation continued for 2 hours, with Jessica alternating between guilt-inducing appeals to family loyalty and angry demands that I fulfill my obligations to relatives in crisis. She accused me of being selfish, vindictive, and jealous of her success, while simultaneously expecting me to rescue our parents from the consequences of funding that success. "You've always resented me for being more successful," Jessica declared during the most heated portion of our argument. "But now you have more money than you could spend in 10 lifetimes, and you're still finding ways to punish our family for your perceived grievances." "Perceived grievances," I repeated slowly. "You mean like the journal where Mom documented her reasons for favoring you? Or the mortgage they took to buy your house while refusing to loan me money for car repairs?" "That's all in the past," Jessica said dismissively. "What matters now is whether you're going to help our family when we need you most, or whether you're going to let Mom and Dad lose their home because of ancient resentments." The conversation ended with Jessica gathering her documents and storming toward my apartment door, pausing to deliver a final ultimatum. "If you let our parents go into foreclosure when you have the money to prevent it, I'll make sure everyone in our family knows exactly what kind of person you really are," she threatened. "They'll understand that all your complaints about favoritism were just excuses for being a selfish, bitter man who abandons family when they need help." After Jessica left, I remained awake until sunrise, processing the evening's revelations and recognizing the impossible position my lottery win had created. My family expected automatic access to my money, while simultaneously denying responsibility for the favoritism and dysfunction that had characterized our relationships for decades. The financial crisis facing our parents was real and serious, but it was entirely self-created through their choice to mortgage their retirement security for Jessica's immediate benefit. Now they expected me to resolve problems they had created while showing favoritism toward the child who had benefited from their poor decisions. I realized that any financial assistance I provided would be interpreted as validation of their treatment and confirmation that family loyalty meant accepting inequality and manipulation without complaint. Yet refusing to help would position me as the villain in a narrative where I was actually the victim of systematic favoritism and neglect. The lottery win that had initially represented freedom and justice was becoming another mechanism for family members to exploit and control, just as every other family resource had been throughout my life. After a sleepless night of reflection, I spent Friday morning researching family therapists, financial advisors, and legal professionals who specialized in complex family dynamics. By afternoon, I had scheduled consultations with 3 different counselors and identified an attorney experienced in estate planning and family financial disputes. Saturday morning, I called my parents and Jessica to request a family meeting at their house Sunday afternoon. I explained that I was prepared to discuss their financial crisis and my potential role in addressing it, but only within the framework of honest conversation about our family's history and future relationship dynamics. "We'll do whatever you want," Mom said immediately. "We're just grateful you're willing to consider helping us through this terrible situation." Sunday afternoon, I arrived at my childhood home carrying a leather portfolio containing documents I'd spent the weekend preparing. My parents sat nervously on their living room couch, while Jessica occupied Dad's recliner, her posture suggesting she expected this meeting to conclude with her financial problems being resolved through my lottery winnings. Before we discuss money, we need to address the dysfunction that created this crisis. I began opening my portfolio and distributing copies of documents I'd compiled. I've brought evidence of the favoritism and financial inequality that has characterized our family for 20 years. The documents included screenshots of Mom's journal entries about my comparative unworthiness bank records, showing the timing of gifts and loans to Jessica compared to my requests for assistance, and a timeline of major family financial decisions that demonstrated systematic bias toward Jessica's interests. I've also brought copies of conversations I've recorded since winning the lottery. I continued noting Jessica's surprised expression, including Jessica's assumption that my money automatically belongs to the family, and her threats about destroying my reputation if I don't comply with her financial expectations. For the first time in our family's history, I presented comprehensive evidence of dysfunction that couldn't be dismissed, minimized, or reframed as my oversensitivity or imagination. The documents created an objective record of favoritism that even our parents couldn't deny or rationalize away. But we never realized how unfair we'd been, Dad said quietly after reviewing several pages of evidence. We told ourselves we were responding to your different personalities and needs, but seeing it documented like this makes our bias obvious. Inas, the question now is whether you're genuinely interested in creating healthier family relationships, or whether you just want my money to solve problems created by favoring Jessica. I said, maintaining calm professionalism, despite the emotional weight of the conversation. Mom began crying again, but these tears seemed different from the manipulative sobs of Thursday night's phone call. We were wrong, Hilton. We damaged our family through favoritism, and we understand if you can't forgive us. Jessica remained silent throughout most of the meeting, occasionally glancing at documents that revealed the extent of advantages she'd received compared to my experiences. Her usual confident demeanor had been replaced by obvious discomfort as she recognized how the evidence contradicted her narrative about family fairness and my alleged oversensitivity. I'm willing to help with your financial crisis, I announced after 2 hours of difficult conversation. But my assistance comes with non-negotiable conditions that address both the immediate problems and the underlying relationship dysfunction. I outlined a comprehensive plan that included paying off their mortgage and providing modest financial security through a structured trust fund, but only within the framework of family therapy sessions for 1 year and written acknowledgement of past favoritism that would be shared with extended family members who had been told distorted versions of our family dynamics. The trust will cover your basic living expenses and housing costs, I explained, but it won't fund luxury purchases, gifts to Jessica's family, or lifestyle improvements beyond necessary maintenance and repairs. For Jessica, I offered to establish education savings accounts for her children and provide emergency medical coverage, but refused to fund her vacation fantasies, home improvements, or Bradley's business expansion plans. This isn't punishment, I clarified as Jessica's expression darkened. It's establishing healthy boundaries that prevent my money from enabling the same favoritism patterns that created these problems. The most challenging condition involved Jessica selling the Scottsdale house and using proceeds to compensate our parents for the mortgage debt they'd incurred on her behalf. This requirement addressed the fundamental unfairness of expecting me to rescue our parents from financial decisions that had directly benefited Jessica while harming the rest of the family. That house is our family home, Jessica protested. You can't expect us to uproot our children and start over because of a financial technicality. It's not a technicality, I replied firmly. Our parents mortgaged their retirement security to buy you that house. If they're facing financial crisis because of that decision, you bear responsibility for helping resolve it. The meeting concluded with reluctant agreement to my conditions, though Jessica's compliance seemed motivated by financial necessity, rather than genuine recognition of family dysfunction. Our parents appeared relieved to have their immediate crisis addressed even within the framework of acknowledging their mistakes and participating in therapeutic intervention. 6 months later, our family had undergone remarkable transformation through weekly counseling sessions with Dr. Patricia Williams, a therapist who specialized in favoritism dynamics and financial boundaries within families. The sessions forced honest conversations about parental choices, sibling resentment, and the difference between love and enabling dysfunction. Our parents sold their large family home and purchased a modest condominium appropriate for their retirement needs and income level. The trust fund I established provided comfortable but not luxurious living, ensuring their basic security while preventing financial decisions that might recreate old patterns of favoritism. Jessica initially struggled with counseling requirements and the reduced financial support from our parents, but gradually developed better understanding of how her privileges had affected family relationships. She found employment as a part-time bookkeeper for Bradley's dental practice, contributing to their household income rather than relying entirely on others for financial support. Most importantly, I used the lottery winnings to establish the Fair Start Educational Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing scholarships and support services for students from families experiencing favoritism dynamics or financial inequality. The foundation offered counseling resources, academic support, and financial assistance, designed to help young people build independent lives despite family dysfunction. The work felt meaningful in ways that luxury purchases or family payouts never could. Each student who received foundation assistance represented validation that my experiences had purpose beyond personal pain, and that resources could be used to break cycles of inequality rather than perpetuate them. My relationship with my family stabilized around realistic expectations and clear boundaries. We shared holiday meals and celebrated major milestones, but within structures that prevented regression to old patterns of manipulation and favoritism. The lottery money had provided leverage to demand honesty and change, rather than simply enabling continuation of dysfunctional dynamics. The profound life lesson from this experience centered on the difference between wealth and self-worth, between family loyalty and family enabling, and between forgiveness and doormat behavior. True prosperity isn't measured by financial assets or family approval, but by the courage to demand respect and the wisdom to use resources in service of justice rather than convenience. Money without boundaries becomes a tool for manipulation. Family without honesty becomes a source of toxicity. Forgiveness without accountability becomes permission for continued harm. The lottery win taught me that real freedom comes not from having unlimited resources, but from using those resources to create healthier relationships, built on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. The $100 million transformed my life, but not in ways I'd initially expected. Instead of providing escape from family problems, the money forced confrontation with family dysfunction and created opportunities to address generational patterns that might otherwise have continued indefinitely. Wealth became a tool for healing rather than a band-aid for ongoing wounds. Looking back on that 2 a.m. phone call that started this journey, I realized my parents were right about one thing: they had made terrible mistakes. But their mistakes weren't temporary lapses in judgment. They were systematic choices that required systematic solutions rather than simple financial bailouts. The lottery ticket purchased with Jessica's birthday numbers had indeed provided cosmic justice, but not through revenge or vindication. Instead, it created circumstances that forced our family to confront truth, establish boundaries, and rebuild relationships on foundations of honesty rather than manipulation. Sometimes the universe does provide second chances, but those chances require courage to demand better treatment and wisdom, to use blessing in service of healing rather than enabling continued dysfunction. The greatest lottery win wasn't the money itself, but the opportunity to transform pain into purpose and favoritism into fairness. True family love doesn't require accepting inequality or enabling poor choices. Real generosity isn't writing checks without expectations, but investing in positive change that benefits everyone involved. The most valuable inheritance isn't financial wealth, but the knowledge that respect must be earned through consistent behavior rather than demanded through biological connection. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where sudden good fortune gave you the power to address long-standing family dysfunction? How do you balance forgiveness with accountability when dealing with relatives who have treated you unfairly? If this story resonated with your own experiences with family favoritism or financial manipulation, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize that they're not alone in dealing with these challenging dynamics. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family challenges and finding strength in difficult circumstances. Like this video, if it helped you think differently about family relationships and money. Share it with friends who might benefit from understanding that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for healthy relationships. Thank you for listening to this journey of pain transformation and ultimately healing. Remember that your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to respond when given the power to create positive change. May you find the courage to demand the respect you deserve and the wisdom to use your blessings in service of justice and healing.